One schooling experience varies dramatically in accordance with multiple factors throughout an individual's life. Dependent on things such as the hidden curriculum, cultural capital, and experiences with power, each member of our group has a different story to tell. In a lot of ways, our group is very similar. We are all girls who have shared a similar upbringing. Although, upon reflection, we have discovered that we all have had very diverse experiences throughout our schooling, and this has shaped who we are today.
What is hidden curriculum? Hidden curriculum refers to the unwritten, unofficial, and often unintended lessons, values, and perspectives that students learn in school. What are your experiences with the hidden curriculum?
I have a hearing impairment, and when I was in grade 6, I was part of a friendship group, and there was about 6 of us. They created a game, and basically the game, it didn't involve me, I was the game. They would leave me at various places of the playground and just run off. And when I would catch up with them and explain how they didn't tell me they were leaving, and where were you, they would say, oh, we told you where we were going, you just didn't hear us. And essentially they would use my hearing impairment against me, which of course made me feel quite low, and just made me acknowledge that I was different.
So I actually grew up in Tasmania, and then I moved over to Melbourne at the start of year 9. Now in my 4-5 class in primary school Tasmania, I had a classmate called Jay. He had autism, so the way that he learnt was different to everyone else. But the culture of the school, we all made sure we included him in every way possible and made him feel really special. Now, in the middle of that year, Jay was actually in a car accident and lost his life, which was so sad. Like, hardest thing I've ever done is say goodbye to a friend like that. Anyway, time passed, I moved to Melbourne and I met A. She was in many of my classes and she also had autism, but she wasn't nearly as accepted at the school. No one really associated with her unless they had to. So I thought it was my moral obligation to make sure I included her in every way possible. At the school, everyone thought I was weird for doing that. They were like wondering, like, what is this new girl doing, like being friends with A? Anyway, by the end of year 12, I changed that hidden curriculum. I made sure everyone took time to get to know A and understand that she's just like the rest of us.
The exclusion of children was a part of the hidden curriculum at Laura's school and Emily's school in Melbourne. At both these schools, kids decided to alienate the students that were different. Therefore, both of these schools had a certain amount of inequality towards the students that suffered socially.
Contrasting Laura and Emily's stories, it is evident that Laura was the one who was directly being impacted by the hidden curriculum, as her hearing impairment was used to others' advantage. When the girls would run away from her, they would tell her that she just didn't hear them, using that as an excuse. The hidden curriculum impacted Laura here, as she was one of 2 students in the school with a hearing aid, which made her different from everyone else, therefore her experiences were made to be different. Whereas for Emily, she was not the one being directly impacted, as she realised the difference of the way her 2 schools dealt with students who had disabilities, as well as the ways that students at both her schools treated the students with disability. Emily used her past experiences of the hidden curriculum with Jay to change the way that the hidden curriculum impacted on A.
Cultural capital is an individual's accumulation of knowledge, skills they possess, their behaviours and social tastes that provide them access to social power. How did cultural capital impact on your schooling experience?
I have an Italian background and I'm Catholic, and at times I felt that because of this, my parents were a bit more strict in bringing me up, and I think that made me have kind of a sheltered upbringing. Because of this, I never fitted in with other kids at the state primary school that I attended, as I had a different culture, set of beliefs and values that differed from a lot of the kids that I went to primary school with. In result, I was bullied for a lot of my primary school years. That feeling of lack of belonging all changed when I went to a Catholic secondary school. I actually went to high school knowing no one from my primary school, and that was a blessing in disguise. This was because in high school, being that it was Catholic, a lot of the girls had the same sort of culture, beliefs and values as me, and I found that a lot easier to fit in.
My narratives include experiences that I had to go through during primary school, which have made me the person I am today. My first experience is being raised in a Greek family. My first language was in fact Greek, and this caused a language barrier during primary school, meaning it was very difficult for me to communicate and converse with other students and teachers. This was challenging as I felt there was a hidden curriculum within the class where I could feel the energy of other students in the class drifting away as they didn't want to make the effort to talk to me and become friends with me. My other experience was based on the language barrier. I didn't have a wide social circle, but the 2 girls I made friends with in grade 1 were quite nasty to me, as they would make me run laps around the oval in order to be their friend, as I couldn't communicate easily with them. They felt this was a funny way to make me be friends with them.
Comparing both of Mikaela and Maria's experiences, it is clear that both of their stories are related to their cultural background. For Mikaela, her traditional Italian upbringing, its values and beliefs clashed with the culture and values of her state primary school. The qualities and culture that the other students had been brought up with were much different to Mikaela. She would say that she was sheltered growing up. These made it difficult for Mikaela to fit in at her school, as her cultural capital was vastly different to her peers. Similarly for Maria, being that English was not her first language when she first attended school, her cultural capital and what she brought to school was much different to her peers due to her Greek background. This impacted on Maria's ability to make friends and fit in, as she was much different to other students at her school.
The girls' stories also contrast each other. Whilst Mikaela found that it was her religion that created the divide in cultural capital, Maria found that it was her culture itself that created the divide. Aspects of the girls' virtual backpacks allowed them to cope through times of bullying, although Mikaela was provided an escape when she moved to her new school. Instead, Maria had to adapt by learning English in order to find equality.
ASL Standard 1.3 is students with diverse linguistic, cultural, religious and socio-economic background. In Maria's case, the teachers could have arranged for her to have a buddy system in the weeks, perhaps for 1 week where she came to school, especially because she did not speak a lot of English. It would have been good for her to have someone, already a friend, to play with her. In Mikaela's case, I think there could have been a lot more education around different religions and accepting different cultures and background. The teachers really could have incorporated this into their lesson in order for the girls to have a more positive experience.
Power within education can be defined and described in 3 ways. Power over, which is wanting control over someone or a certain task for one's own benefit or for the benefit of others. Power within, the ability to make a motivational change in order to achieve goals and maximise learning. And power with, working together in order to create positive outcomes. How has power affected you as a person, and how has it related to your schooling?
As a Caucasian Australian, I had power growing up. School was an easy ride for me in terms of fitting in, especially with the way that I look. The large majority of my primary school were white, including the staff. Going to a Catholic primary school, we had come from similar nuclear families with close morals and beliefs. Similarly, in high school, I attended an all-girls Catholic school where we had all come from very similar backgrounds with similar beliefs. I wouldn't say I was a sheltered child, however, growing up in an English and Australian family, I had not experienced a lot of diversity. I had a subconscious power as I belonged to the majority race in Australia, and my power has not been evident to me until recently, and studying this subject and talking about diversity and different struggles that students from different cultural backgrounds go through in Australia and comparing them to mine.
The ability to change the hidden curriculum definitely wasn't something that came easy. Naturally, conforming to my peers at my new school would have been the probable situation, considering I had little power as the new kid. Saying this, my socio-cultural identity allowed me to go against those larger social forces that were making me conform. At my new school, I actually became friends with a group of girls who had a very high social status within the school, so this gave me extra power over my peers and the opportunity to really make a change.
Power is a concept that we have all explored during our time at school. Hannah experienced power subconsciously, as she believed she fitted in at school quite well and easily, based on her race and background. She felt that because she looked very similar to the majority race of Australia in regards to skin colour, skin complexion, morals and beliefs as the school she attended, she felt a deep sense of belonging. Whereas Emily conveyed power in a different way. Her socio-cultural identity was strong enough to give her the power to go against the largest social forces and change the hidden curriculum and culture of the school by making everyone accepting of those who have disabilities.
Power is a social force that really can be manifested in different shapes and forms. In Hannah's experience, it was her race that gave her that power. She was a majority race, which was Caucasian, at her school, and instinctively that meant that they had, well, she and a lot of her friends would have held power within the minorities that may have been at the school at the time. Now, Sarah's story depicts a completely different scenario and a completely different use of power. She was able to change the hidden curriculum at her school when she came over from Tasmania. So it wasn't inclusive. She was able to create an inclusive environment. Basically, how she did this was by bringing what she had experienced in her virtual school bag in her Tasmanian school all the way over, and she was able to effect change. She was able to gain that power within her group and to really educate by her peers how to be inclusive to people with disabilities and really create that friendship among all of the students.
These two stories relate to ASL Standard 1.1, Physical, Social and Intellectual Development and Characteristics of Students. In Hannah's case, teachers could have introduced more culture through learning at Hannah's schools to make her more aware of the power she did have because of her Caucasian culture. And in Emily's case, teachers started to recognise the change happening within the school that Emily had created through the power within the shift that she had made in the culture of the school.
In relation to AITSL Standard 1.4, how do you recognise what strategies would be appropriate in teaching Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students?
At primary school, there was a focus on Indigenous education. However, we also celebrated 150 years of Federation, and what this meant was that all the students were encouraged to come and dress up in colonial dress. At the time, I certainly wouldn't have thought about it, but looking back, I can see how that would have been really difficult for any student which perhaps had a Indigenous background. In year 11 at my high school, we actually did visit Central Australia, and in this experience it was sort of intended to create that rich understanding of Indigenous history and celebration of Indigenous history, and I really do feel as though everyone who was on that trip felt they gained some great understanding.
The school had quite a bit to do with the Torres Strait Islander students, as it prides itself on the inclusion and the efforts made in order to ensure they always felt as if they were being treated equally, no matter their cultural background, beliefs or morals. There was also always acknowledgement of the land before school assemblies, and this really helped me evolve a rich understanding of their culture.
Being involved in such rich experiences have allowed our group to understand multiple ways that we have been influenced throughout our schooling experience. Whether it be the hidden curriculum, cultural capital or power, we understand the impact it can have on the lives of students as we move through our journey of becoming teachers.